just want to get to the group settings box. This hover is just so annoying. How do I get the right menu up? Have you ever found yourself in that position using the WordPress block editor? So frustrating that you can't find the piece of information you want. You can't get the thing to hover the way you want it to. Well, I'm Mark from High Rise Digital, and in this quick video I'm going to show you some really simple tips that will make using the block editor far easier and really help you out. Let's have a look. Right, here we go. I've got a local install of WordPress here, and this is WordPress 5.4, which was recently released a matter of days ago actually. And it actually included some really useful things that I'm going to talk about in this video that help you write in the WordPress block editor, which was formerly known and often still is known as Gutenberg. Now, some of these things I'm going to show you, I think, have actually probably been in the block editor. Whether from the start, I'm not sure, but certainly a long time ago. But I found them very useful and helpful if you are looking to improve the way you use the block editor and trying to remove some of those frustrations that we saw there at the start. So, the first thing I'm going to look at is the block navigator. Now, you can think of this as a bit like a breadcrumb. So one of the really frustrating things is that you can see that when you're hovering over things and clicking on things, you get the tools appearing at the top here. Now, as you can see here, I've actually got a group block, and then inside the group block I've got a heading block. I've then got 3 columns. I've then got columns within that column block, and I've then got blocks within that column, within that columns block, within that group block. So you can see I've got lots of nested blocks, and it can get a little bit tricky. So I want to get to the settings of, for example, the group block, and I can't. These are the settings for the heading block, and I can't get to the one I want to do. Now, what you can possibly see is at the bottom here, if I've selected the one that's on the screen, which is the heading block, at the bottom of the screen here there's like a little breadcrumb, and it's super useful. So you can see that I'm in the document, and then I'm in a group block, and then I'm actually nested in the heading block at the moment inside the group block, and I can click on the group, and then lo and behold I've then got the group setting here for the group, and I can change the group settings alignment tools. I can set those things, and I've got the group block settings over here for the group as well. So that navigator at the bottom is really simple. In fact, it doesn't look like the columns are in the group. So that's really super useful. Then I can do the same in here. So you can see now I'm in a column and a heading. So at the bottom here I can see where it's nested. So it's nested inside a columns block, and then I'm in a first column, and then I'm in the heading. So if I want to get to the column settings, I can just click on that. They're the column settings, and on the right hand side over here I can then set the column settings, widths and things like that, and even the CSS styles and stuff. If I want the whole block, the whole columns block settings, I can click on that. And again, I've got the alignment features. I've got whether I want to align them vertically to the middle, etc, etc. So you get the idea. That block navigation at the bottom is super useful. Now, the other one is a few other things up here which I haven't noticed before. So there's this block information symbol, which is your content structure. So this tells you how everything is structured. So you can see that the page starts with a title at the top, and then I've got a group block with a heading inside. I've got a columns block with a column and a heading, and so on. So this is quite useful as well to navigate. It also tells you how many words you've used and how many headings are in. If you're into super SEO stuff, maybe that's important to you, knowing how many headings you've got and things like that. I'm not so sure, but there you go. It's kind of useful, which is interesting. Then on the drop down, we've got block navigation. So this again is a super useful hierarchical, if that's a word, way of looking at the structure of your page. And once again, if I click on these, it highlights it in the actual content or body of the page. So that's really useful as well to you, to be able to get to the places that you want to get to. So that's the block breadcrumb, the block navigation, and the block outline. The other thing with WordPress 5.4 that you might have noticed is when I'm editing a page or a post, I've kind of lost WordPress. WordPress has disappeared from this left-hand side. I don't get my menu and things like that. And that's because they've turned on by default, somewhat controversially it might be, the full screen editor mode. Now you can turn this off if you go to the 3 little dots, the tools and options appear, and you can click the full screen mode, and it will kind of bring you back into that mode. I must admit, I actually like it a little bit. I thought I wouldn't, but I do, but I do think it should still be turned off by default, and then the user can turn it on, maybe with a little tooltip that says, you know, this has been improved. I'm not so sure, but it's there if you want to turn it back off and have the normal sort of experience. By the way, if you wanted to get back to the menu, clicking on the WordPress logo there brings you back into, as it says, view posts. You get the post listing in this instance, so that's interesting. Now, as you hover around the screen or click on the different blocks, you can see each has a different toolbar depending on which block you've selected. But it's because the settings for different blocks are obviously different. Now, sometimes you may want to have that, instead of hovering over the middle of the content that you're writing, you can actually stick that to the top bar. So if you go again onto the toolbar menu, and you can click this button here that says top toolbar, and what it'll do is it'll pin this toolbar to the top of the screen. So no matter which block you are on, it will still change, but it always stays up here instead of hovering over the blocks that you're in. Just kind of gets in the way sometimes. So if that's something that helps you, that might be useful. I'm not sure yet for me. I'm kind of sitting on the fence. It might be on or it might be off, we'll see. So that's something else. And then there's also loads of super options in this tools and options menu here. So one of them is the block manager. So if you never ever use, for example, a custom HTML block or a pre-formatted block, you can just untick it here, and then it will be removed from the block library, which means that it's just out your way. You don't need to worry about it. So that's an interesting little feature as well, the block manager. There's also loads of keyboard shortcuts for doing various things, so like duplicating blocks, opening the block navigation menu, which I showed you before. You can even save using the keyboard. Because I'm on a Mac, it's just Command and S, as you would think. Undo is the same as in most things. So that's worth having a look at if you're a keyboard user and you really think that using the keyboard is going to help you rather than the mouse. Then the other one is the options panel. The last thing to show you is the options panel at the bottom right hand side. So if I click on the options panel, very much in a way that the old WordPress editor worked here, where you could hide some of the meta boxes that were on the screen. So if you never wanted to touch the permalink, you could hide that. If you didn't want to ever add categories, you could hide that. And you can do very much the similar things in here. So if you don't want to use the excerpts, you can just hide it here. It won't be displayed on the page and it doesn't get in your way when you're writing your content. One thing that is interesting is you can actually tick this box, which will want you to reload the page, but it will allow you to put the custom fields box back on that you used to have, the very sort of old style one. And sometimes I have found that useful, so that's something to bear in mind. You can still display that on the page, even though you're using the new block editor. And I've just thought of one last final thing, is that I'm using the Yoast WordPress SEO plugin here, which, as it normally does, puts its box at the bottom of the screen so you can add the different features and things that you need. But from the tools bar as well, we've also got a plugins section here for Yoast, and when I click that, it gives me some of this information in here, and also stuff like the readability analysis. So something to watch out for is that plugins might add content onto the right hand side and then pop it in that plugins menu in the tools and options stuff, so it's worth thinking about there. So I really hope you found that useful. Those were some top tips that I found that made my life much easier using the WordPress block editor, and some new things that came in WordPress 5.4. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time.